Hey, what's going on everyone? So I just wanted to make a very quick video today about Narita Boy. I figured that this would be a game that would sadly slip through the cracks, but there's not really a lot of games to talk about right now, and I think this is the one that has stood out to me the most from the handful that I have been playing this last couple weeks. So if you don't know, Narita Boy is a new action-adventure platformer from Studio Koba and Team 17. You play Narita Boy inside the digital kingdom going up against an opposing force called the Stallions. There's actually a really serious, cool, intricate plot throughout this entire game, and a lot of setup with this dialogue in just the first hour or so that maybe will detract some people because, it's a lot of reading. And if you do skip by it, that's cool. I'm sure many people will just want to play this for the fun, like the combat and actually playing the game. But if you do take the time to delve into this plot, into this story, there's a really interesting thing going on here, and you can tell the writers took their time to flesh out as much of this world as they could, and for the lack of a better way of saying it, they got super nerdy with it, and I love that. If you're gonna go for something, you might as well go all the way, and that was the feeling I got from every single frame in this game. Each level design and the new areas that you would discover always had this story to tell in just the visuals of it alone, and even to the point of the presentation of it being done in the retro style as if you were playing on an old school TV with the wavy distortion going down the sides of it. You can turn that off though if it's distracting, and the game still looks amazing without it. And of course, I think the biggest selling point of the whole game was the soundtrack. They really banked on that in the trailers for it leading up to this coming out, and the music absolutely takes center stage from the moment the game begins, and it's super easy to get swept up in it just immediately. And really those two things, working on this retro style that it has, that was the selling point of this game, like I said. So I think the biggest fear, at least for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, is if this would end up being all style and no substance. And I know this is kind of a cheap answer, but I'm gonna say it was a little bit of both. The style was definitely always there from minute one, so I suppose it is more style than substance as a whole, but I don't think this game lacks any kind of enjoyment from the actual gameplay itself. It is fun most of the time, and it was challenging enough to keep me on my toes the whole time too, but it does lack a certain something to it that wasn't really drawing me back into it after I would put the game down. What I keep coming back to as the reason for that is that the blend between the combat and the platforming just wasn't really working a lot of the time. It always felt like one of them was being left behind, and more often than not, I thought that it was the platforming elements that weren't really staying up to par with the combat, and unfortunately the combat wasn't good enough on its own to keep everything afloat either. I really did love using the techno sword though, and the weird way that it could be used as this laser beam shotgun was super cool, and when you're able to do that with a bunch of people in front of you, it is super satisfying. The enemy types were also really fun to go against, especially the boss types who had their different special abilities that really kept the pace of the game super quick because it never really let you get a handle on things that were going on because it was always introducing something new. And really just overall with this entire game, I had a really fun time with it. While I was playing it, it never got too frustrating, even with all the times that you have to hear when you die. I do think it would have been really easy for a lot of the things in this game to feel like they were trying too hard to do them and not really having an organic feel to it all, but that was never the case. It felt like the people who made this did care about the genre, they cared about the nostalgia feeling authentic, and they were really staying true to the influences that I'm sure they had from other games and other kinds of media that they enjoyed as kids, and they made this as something of an homage to them, but also creating their own world with its own lore and story to stand out on its own. And I do think they pulled that off. I definitely think it could have been better though, and I don't think it's going to make any huge waves for trying anything different, but I still think you can have a really fun time with it, especially if you're getting this on Game Pass, which of course alleviates any of those potential regrets you might have after purchasing a game. So that does help it out a lot, but I still think I would have been perfectly happy paying around $20 for this, and I would have definitely felt like I got my money's worth. And in total, this game is around 7 hours or so, give or take depending on how you play, and that's more than enough for what I would have wanted from it. Again, the visual art style here, the music, they're definitely the standouts over the gameplay and story itself, but I still think as a total package, this delivers on the promise that it showed in the trailers, and that's all that I could have asked for with this one. So I am glad that I tried this one out. It's probably not something that'll be on my best of the year list or anything like that, but not every game has to be that to be worth it, to be something that's, worthy of talking about, and I think this one's definitely worthy of talking about. So I think if you are interested in this one, it's worth checking out. If you do have Game Pass, again, it's totally worth it. So yeah, that's all I got for this one. Thank you all so much for watching this. I am working on a video right now for the game It Takes Two, which came out just about a week ago, I think. That could come out later today or maybe in the next day or two because I am trying to do something a little bit different for it. So if you're interested, maybe look out for that. I hope you're all having a great week out there. I hope you're doing well. I hope to see you all in the next one. And until then, take care, everybody.